Àṣà Isomoloruko ní ilẹ̀ Yoruba. Child naming ceremony in Yoruba culture. The Yorubas believe that having kids is one of the greatest things that can happen to one, and it's considered one of your greatest legacy to leave behind good children. And there is, in fact, a saying in the culture that goes thus: "Ọmọ boni lara ju aṣọ lọ," meaning your kids provide a greater covering than the clothes you wear. So from the time a man and a woman gets married, you find family and friends saying prayers for the fruitfulness of that marriage. They say things like, "Ìyàwó afínúṣoyún afẹ́yẹ̀gbọ́n," meaning the wife will be pregnant with her womb and she will carry a baby on her back. They also say prayers like, "Ẹ̀yìn ìyàwó ò ní mẹ́ni," meaning the wife's back would not be limited to just lying on the mat. She would also carry a baby with her back. So as the prayers for this fruitfulness starts to mount, everybody keeps an eye on the marriage and they're all very joyful when that marriage produces a child. And it's especially joyful when the fruit of that marriage are multiples. Twins are considered an especially great blessing from God. So you'll find nicknames like Mama Beji, Mama Ejire, special nicknames for women that have multiples like twins. So when is the naming ceremony of a newborn baby done? It's done on the eighth day. That means if a child was born last Monday, then it will be named this Monday. If a child is born this Tuesday, then it will be named next Tuesday. And who gives the child his or her name? There is an hierarchy in the naming ceremony. The child's primary name would typically come from his father or representative of the father's family, followed by the mother's name, which often ends up being the middle name. And then family and friends also come in and give the child the name they want to call the child. That is why you see quite a number of Yorubas that have tens or dozens of names because they get names from various family members and friends during their naming ceremony. So, how is the naming ceremony itself conducted? During the naming ceremony, a couple of items are used to pray for the child. One of such item is honey or sugar, and is used to pray that the child's life be joyful, be pleasant, and that that child should have a happy life. So the prayer will go thus: "Kí ayé dùn bí oyin," meaning may your life be as sweet as honey. The other item that they also use is salt. Salt is used for flavoring and for preservation. So they will pray and say, um, meaning may your life have joy. So you use salt to pray for joy, flavor, and preservation for that child. The next item they use is water. Yorubas have a saying that goes thus: "Enikan bọ́ mi ṣọ̀tá," meaning no one makes enemies with water. Omilabuwe, omilabumo, meaning water is so integral to our life because it's water we drink, it's water we have our bath with. So they would use that to pray for the child and pray that that child will have no enemies, will have friends and no foes all his life, and he'll have a life that is cool, calm, and as peaceful as water. The next item that they will also use in this naming ceremony is palm oil. Palm oil is used as a lubricant, either in welding process or even just in eating. When you eat food that has palm oil, you feel like the food is much richer and has better flavor. So they would use palm oil to pray that that child's life is one of ease and that he has smooth sailing in all his affairs. The next item used is orogbo. Orogbo is bitter kola, and the prayer will go thus: "Kí ayé gbó bí orógbó, wàá dàgbà wàá gbó," meaning may your life be as long as the orogbo seeds. May you live long. May you live to a ripe old age. So they will use orogbo to pray for longevity for that child. The next item is obi, and with obi they would pray and say, "Wabi kuno wabi arono," meaning that you would reject death, you reject sickness, you reject all sort of evil. So they will use obi to pray and say, may that child's life reject all sorts of evil and may he be preserved from every form of evil. Atari is also used in the naming process. The Atari pod you see here has lots and lots of tiny seeds inside it, so hundreds of seeds are quite often found inside each of these atari pots. They would use this to pray for fruitfulness and fertility and say, Ki ọmọ will be ọmọpọ̀ nínú atari, meaning may the children that come from you be as many as the seeds of the atari pod. So they'll use it to pray for fruitfulness and fertility for that child. The next item is fish. They will use fish, dried fish or fried fish to pray for breakthrough and success for that child. The belief is that when a fish is inside water, it doesn't get cold, no matter how cold the water is. A fish would naturally find itself in its natural habitat. And while in that natural habitat, the fish swims with its head and with that makes way and progress in the water. And no matter how turbulent the water is, it's never an hindrance for the fish. So they would pray that that child's life is one of success and that he finds himself in an environment where he's successful and he has breakthrough in all his endeavors. Next, many homes would use the religious text to also pray for the child. So whether you're of the Christian, Muslim, or traditional belief system, they will take their religious text and use that to pray for the child. And in that prayer, they are seeking that that child has a knowledge of God as he grows up and that God watches over that child. Next, let's look at the names given to the child. Names in Yoruba culture fall into four major categories. We have predestined names, which are Oruko and Motoronwa. For twins, for instance, the first child will be called Taiwo and the one who comes after will be called Kehinde. If you have kids after the twins, then the child who comes right after the birth of the twins will be called Idowu, and the one after that will be called Alaba. A boy born soon after the death of his grandfather is called Babatunde when we believe that the grandfather has been reincarnated or has been reborn in that boy. A child born with dreadlocks is called Dada. One who is born around a festival, a major celebration is called Abiodun. A child whose life circumstances or the circumstances surrounding his birth um, has a significant story behind it is called Enito, meaning one of a great story. And a girl who is born soon after the death of her grandmother and in whom we believe the grandmother has returned or has been reincarnated is called Yetunde, Yewande, or Iyabode. The next category of names are acquired names, Orúkọ àbísọ. These are names that we give the child after the child arrives. There are names like Morenike, Aderunke, Olarinde, Oladipupo, and Olarewaju. The next batch of names are Orukoriki, pet or praise names. They're really very sweet names that are given to the child at birth, but it's also a name that you can acquire at any point in your life. We often find in marriages and in romantic relationships that men and women tend to also give themselves these names. Example of these names are names like Ashake, Ayanfe. Ayanfe means the one I've chosen to love. Anyila, Anyide, and Atinuke. Atinuke means the one that has been loved from the womb. The last category of names are Orukwabikus. Orukwabikus are names common in homes or families where infant mortality is high. And these names implore death not to take the child away, and the names implore the child to stay behind and grow old. Examples of the name are names like Ikudaisi, meaning death has spared this one. Kashimawo, meaning let's watch and see. Let's watch and see whether this child stays. Omotude, meaning this child has returned again. Ikumakwaye, meaning death should not kill this one. Biobako, meaning if he or she doesn't die, then that child will grow old. Malomo, meaning do not go again. Durosimi, meaning stay with me. Durojaye, meaning stay and enjoy this life. And Ikukoi, meaning death has rejected this one. So the names would fall in any of this category depending on the circumstances of the child's birth. Now, in many of the names, you find common phrases, words that are suffixed or prefixed in the names. So we give you a couple of those just to give you an idea of how the names are constructed and to give you a starting point for interpreting those names when you come across them. Common prefix and suffixes in the Yoruba names you come across include words like Abi. Abi means born. Ade meaning crown, Ayo meaning joy, Baba meaning father, Fumi means give me, give it to me, give me. Ife means love, Oba means king, Ola means wealth, Olu or Olua meaning God, Omo meaning child or offspring, Temi meaning my own or mine, Tolu or Tiolu meaning of God or belonging to God, and Yeye or Ye, the short form of it meaning mother. So let's look at some examples of how these suffixes and prefixes are used in forming names. So with Abi, Abi could appear in a name like Abiono, meaning born on a journey, Abisola, meaning born into wealth, Abiodun, meaning born during a celebration or a festival. Ade, which means crown, can be used thus. Adeola, crown of wealth. Adepero, meaning the crown pacifies, and Adedayo, meaning the crown has become joy. Ayo can also be used in names. So you have names like Ayomide. Ayomide means my joy has arrived. You have Ayodeji, which means my joy has doubled or has multiplied. And you have Ayotunde, which means my joy has come again. Baba is also used in names where you talk about names like Baba today, meaning the father has returned again. Baba Jide, which means the father has been raised up or has been reincarnated. And Baba Lola, which means the father is a source of wealth. Ife is used in names like Ifedayo, meaning love has turned to joy. Ade Ife, meaning the crown of love or crowning love. Ifelua, the love of God. Oba is used in names like Obademu. Obademu means the king holds firmly. Obasanjo means the king rewards, and Obadare means the king justifies or vindicates. And the picture on the right is a picture of one of the paramount rulers of Yoruba land, the Oni of Ile-Ife. Ola means wealth and is used in names like Olaolu, meaning the wealth of God, Olauton, meaning my wealth never finishes, and Abimbola, meaning born into wealth. We use Oluwa, and Oluwa is a very, very common prefix and suffix. Some examples of names that use Oluwa or Olu in them include names like Oluwati Mileyin, meaning God defends and supports me, Oluwabumi, which means the Lord gifted me, and Oluwadunsin, which means it is pleasing or lovely to serve God. You have names like Omotayo, starting with the word Omo. Omo means child or offspring. Omotayo means the child is equivalent to joy, or my child is joy. You have names like Omoduni, meaning having a child is joyful. Omolola, meaning my child is my wealth. You have names that start with Temi. Temi means my own or my portion or mine. So you have names like Temi Lade, meaning the crown or royalty is mine. You have names like Temi Tokbai, which means my own or my portion is worthy of thanks. Temi Dayo, which means my own or my portion has become one of joy. Next, you have names that start with Tolu or Tiolu. Tolu is a contracted form of Tiolu, and it means of God or belonging to God. So you have names like Tolu Lokwe, which means praise and thanks belongs to God. You have names like Tiolu Animi, meaning I am of God or I belong to God. And Tolu Alashe, meaning the authority belongs to God. And then you have names that start with Ye or Yeye. Ye is a short form of Yeye, and Yeye means mother. And examples of those names are Yewande, which means my mother has sought me out again. Yetunde, my mother has returned. And Yeside, my mother returns still. Now, as those names are given to a child in the naming ceremony, the child will have someone who is a scribe recording all those names, and those names will be introduced to the child as the child starts to grow, so that as he grows, he understands the origin of his name, why he was given that name, and who gave him the many very varied names he's probably likely to have as a Yoruba boy or girl. As part of the naming ceremony, after the naming is done, the prayers have been done, there's likely to be a short celebration or a big celebration, depending on your pocket and the circumstances of the child's birth, where people praise God and then go on to have a small party where people can eat and make merriment. We call that an Owambe, meaning there's something happening, a party is happening. Owambe, go there and be part of the merriment. Now, throughout that day or throughout that ceremony, you hear greetings and prayers like Ekwe Womo, which means congrats on surviving the perils of childbirth. You hear prayers like Olorun Awo or Olorun Adasi. Olorun Awo or Olorun Adasi both mean the Lord will watch this child and the Lord will preserve this child. You hear greetings like Eku Owolomi. Eku Owolomi means literally we greet you for having your hands in water. And that is a greeting that originated out of the observation that when a child is born into a home, there's usually a lot of things that are done with water. You use water to wash, you use water to clean, you use water to make baby food and all that. So there's quite a bit going on with water in the house. So you would say things like eku or walumi, meaning we greet you for having your hands in water constantly. And another one which I especially like is Anyo Warilei, meaning this child will have good offsprings, will have good siblings coming behind them. So yeah, this child will have good siblings coming behind them. So this is a short overview of what typically happens in a Yoruba naming ceremony. If you would like us to expand more on the ceremony itself, the prayers and the greetings, or the structure of Yoruba names, kindly leave your comments in the comment section. I will be sure to take that into consideration as we prepare our next content. Now, before I leave you, I'd like to share in the very last section a dance rendition by the women of Hereward, where they sing a song that talks about the joy of having children in the culture. It's a Yoruba song and it's a very beautiful rendition. My prayer for you as you watch is that you will also experience the joy of having your own child and raising children who are worthy in life. Thank you and enjoy your day.